What an amazing episode. This is probably my favorite episode of The Last of Us Season 2 so far, episode 4. Lots of great things to say about the interrogation scene, the music shop scene, that amazing WLF Tunnel scene that just encaptured that feeling you get when you play the game very, very well. This is what happens when you have people who were involved in the creation of the game and know it deeply and know the spirit of the game and not just the story, get to display their strengths and serve as counsel for the filmmakers and the people who are in the entertainment industry. This is what happens when you have a good balance between them, with each side knowing their strengths and weaknesses, what they know and what they don't know, and what they can contribute that the other side can't contribute. A lot of times with video game adaptations, you have the studio, the film entertainment studio, not showing respect to the original source material, treating it as if it's something that needs to be fixed, something that needs to be made more mature, something that has to be very, very different. And other times you have people from the gaming industry who are involved in the game's creation thinking they know more about filmmaking and how to construct a TV show and the pacing of a TV show and the writing and cinematography. They think they know more than they do. But with this Last of Us TV show, we really see the merging of these two sides in a way that is beneficial for both and brings out the strengths of both sides. Of course, we also have tremendous industry knowledge and actors at HBO. So we're going to start off with the Ellie and Dena mini sequence here at the beginning, where they are moving through Seattle looking for leads on Abby, the WLF, and where they could be. First things first, this theme of disagreements between Ellie and Dena, where Ellie will launch into action before really thinking a plan out. And then Dena will be the voice there to kind of rein her back in, be the more logical and rational one among them who is more capable of creating a strategic plan of action. This is all important world building for what we will likely see in season 3 concerning Ellie and Dena's relationship and Ellie's descent into this ravenous, vengeful obsession with Abby and abandoning all of her previous relationships for this singular goal of killing Abby. So I thought that was a very great scene, great cinematography, great feel. This was my favorite shot from that sequence. Up next, we have the music shop scene. Ellie and Dena find a music shop. They need a place to set up camp for a little bit to rest, and they find a music shop where Ellie finds a guitar up there. And this is a very popular scene from the video game itself. Everything here mirrors the video game very closely to how I remember it. The lighting, the cinematography, set design, the song, the guitar, everything is pure Ellie. Bella Ramsey very much encapsulates Ellie. I don't know what people are talking about when they say that she was miscast. She embodies the spirit of Ellie almost 1-to-1. She is by far the most convincing counterpart to the video game character that I have seen in terms of the spirit of the character. Again, this was a very popular video game scene, so if you're someone who hasn't played the games, first off, I don't know why you're watching this. My discussions are not spoiler-free. They're pure discussions concerning all of the knowledge I have about The Last of Us and the surrounding events around it. So this is a very special scene from the game, very iconic. I'm happy they put it in here and they paid respect to it. HBO is showing that they are good stewards of this story that Neil Druckmann and the people over at Naughty Dog crafted. The only criticism I have about the scene is that it was long as hell. I hate it in TV shows and games where there's like a singing sequence. Euphoria did it at one point with this one scene where some guy, Dominic, I forgot what his character's name was singing to Rue, Zendaya's character. And it was so long. There's so many memes you can find online of people skipping forward on that scene, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, and it's still going. The scene kind of started to feel like that to me, but overall it was cute, very iconic scene from the video game, and it was nice that they inserted that there. I just really want to give the people at HBO their flowers. They are paying respect to the game. At the same time, they're improving upon it. And at the same time, they're not behaving as if they are ashamed of the fact that they are adapting a video game into a television series. I've always said, and many people, I'm not the only one, have always said that The Last of Us is a story suitable for television. It's a very cinematic game. So those are the first two scenes here. We have some calm before the storm, as is typical in The Last of Us video game. The Last of Us is very much a game where you spend a lot of time walking and experiencing your environment, looking for supplies, looking for tools, learning the lore of the place you're in by reading papers, reading notes, reading journals, listening to recordings, I believe, in the first game. So the next part of the episode was an interrogation scene. We see here the WLF operative that we saw at the beginning of the episode, now in his element here, torturing one of the Seraphites. First off, amazing pacing in this scene. Him talking about his cookware and how he used to cook for women he was trying to impress. And then all of a sudden we see this guy chained up to the wall on the other side of the room. It was very sharp, very impactful. I like how it played out. I found the line during this scene where I think the interrogator said something like, "Do you think you guys are going to win?" And the Seraphite was like, "Yes." And the guy said, "Why?" And the Seraphite said, "Every day, one of your wolves takes her into his heart and becomes one of them. But no Seraphite has ever become a wolf." I found that such a badass thing to say when you're on the brink of death and you've been getting tortured for so long. However, people who haven't played the game might have felt that the Seraphites were a very peaceful population, that they were a peaceful people. But in the next sequence, the highlight of the episode, the WLF Tunnel sequence, we see that the Seraphites do commit acts of torture. They are religious fanatics. So while what the interrogator was doing to that particular Seraphite was evil and wicked, the Seraphites themselves aren't exactly clean in that regard in how they treat other people as well. This is great for building up the understanding of the various factions and enemies that Ellie will come into contact with throughout the rest of The Last of Us Part 2's adaptation, whether that be the third season, if there is a third season, which I think it's certain there's going to be a third season, and further. So let's actually talk about this tunnel sequence. First off, I'm going to keep saying it again, but the cinematography is so good. It manages to capture the cinematography of the game, which is cinematic in nature, very movie-like and TV-like. And they straight up adapted that into television without it seeming corny. A lot of times when movies and TV shows try to adapt a game one-to-one, it looks corny and cringy. It does not in The Last of Us TV show at all. Very good cinematography. The cinematographers were very tapped in to what made the game look so good, and they made sure that they were able to adapt that to television while not doing too much. Again, like I said earlier, The Last of Us is a game with a lot of calms before storms. You walk around a lot of times searching for resources. You're always, typically, I am always low on resources. And you spend a lot of time sneaking around, but inevitably there's a situation where, a clicker, an infected notices you and you shoot them, and then it attracts a bunch of other clickers, and now you're running and fleeing and try to find a safe place and blah, blah, blah. This also happens when you're fighting human opponents as well. You're sneaking around them, but the human opponents are more sentient than the infected, so they're even more difficult to sneak around. And there are times where they notice you and they all come rushing towards you, and so on and so forth. So if you felt during this sequence a great sense of, oh crap, this is tense, and then all of a sudden things go down and people are running and there's a bunch of noise being made and there's zombies coming out of places and things are just going bad, that is also something that was carried over from the video games very, very well. I was pausing this sequence and rewinding it because I'm like, how did they capture the spirit and the feeling of playing the game when I'm just watching it? I'm not even playing it anymore, but I feel all of that same tenseness as if I were playing the game. Very, very good job on behalf of the showrunners here, knowing what to do, knowing how to adapt it. And I'm sure Neil Druckmann and the others from Naughty Dog who took part in this adaptation had something to do with that as well. My heart was racing. I really like how Dena is being shown over and over, having very good hearing and the ability to count how many infected there were. She was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then her hand was shaking. You knew that, okay, it's way more than 5 here. I had another clip that I wanted to show you. In my Yellow Jackets review, I always tried to make note of times when line delivery really struck out to me. And Bella had some line delivery that I feel sounded exactly like Ellie in the video game. So let's take a look at what I was talking about here. Right, so it's this part. It's the part where she is trying to open this rotating gate and she is frustrated. She's screaming effing open and stuff like that. It really, really sounds like Ellie. If you've played the game, you know what I'm talking about. Just listen to this here. Let's rewind a little bit so you guys have time to actually hear what is happening. So if you could hear that, she said effing open, effing moved. I felt like that sounded exactly like Ellie. I don't know how Bella Ramsey, who's British, is able to portray a sort of Midwestern-ish accent in America, but it was amazing. Really, really spot on casting here for Ellie. She portrays it very, very well. I know some people were not warm towards her in the past, but I don't think that has anything to do with her performance. I think it has purely to do with her stature, not being as tall and imposing as Ellie, but in every other regard, she nails it. We also had at the end of this sequence, Ellie saving Dena's life by allowing an infected to bite her arm instead of biting Dena. That was very sweet. I was hoping that Dena didn't see it, but she did, which we'll talk about in the next segment where we talk about the theater and their night spent at the theater. But I also thought that was very nice. Ellie, quick decision showing how her being immune is extremely useful. Once again, backing up what I said about Joel being kind of an enemy of humanity. He wouldn't let a vaccine be created that could potentially give everyone this kind of immunity that Ellie has and lead to them defeating the infected across the world because he wanted to save one person's life. So let's always try to remember that as we get further into the story, and we hopefully empathize a little bit with Abby in what she did, because that will be very important in season 3. So the last thing we're going to talk about is the theater sequence, the final part of the episode. Dena saw that Ellie got bit. She thinks she's going to turn any moment now and wants to kill Ellie. Ellie is then forced to reveal to her that she's immune. I believe only Ellie, Joel, and Tommy knew that, and Nora. Not Nora. I forgot her name. But Ellie, Joel, Tommy, and the woman who sent Joel to take Ellie to the hospital in season 1, whom he killed also when he was removing Ellie from that place. Those are the only people who knew. They kept it a secret. Now that Joel is dead, it's down to Ellie, and the other lady is dead. It's down to Ellie and Tommy. And now Dena knows. So it's Ellie, Tommy, and Dena who know that Ellie is immune. It was really sad to see Dena believing she has to kill Ellie. And it was nice. I thought it was funny that Ellie was like, Dena, do not shoot me. Literally just wait. I'll sleep and then I'll wake up and you'll see that I'm immune to the infected. You can't get past this sequence also without the revelation that Dena is pregnant. That's a thing. Ellie and Dena, that'll be a point of contention in their relationship later on, although things seem peachy right now. Ellie, like I said, will become obsessed with chasing after Abby to the detriment of Dena and her relationship. Lastly, Ellie and Dena did have intimate relations in this sequence. I sound like a clinician saying it like that, but I don't want to get banned or demonetized or anything. All of the people I talked about this in my review of the other episodes in my gigantic discussion video, but there's there's a mini controversy on Twitter concerning the homophobic guy from the previous episodes, as well as Dena saying that she is not gay in the previous episode, I believe. Some people were asserting that HBO was bending the knee to the culture war, that they were changing things, giving the homophobic guy more scenes, making him more sympathetic, as well as having Dena say that she's not gay. I spoke about all of this concerning the culture war. I spoke about the culture war surrounding the release of the video game and how the anti-woke community really sunk their claws into The Last of Us Part 2, created endless controversy for the game, smearing it, controlling narratives surrounding the game, assuming political motivations where there were none, yada, yada, yada. Things that we're all familiar with by now concerning the culture war and how movies, television, games, and creativity, art, and expression are all being pulled into the culture war in an attempt to intimidate creatives. But there's not just a culture war on the right. There is also a culture war surrounding The Last of Us on the left that was created in response to the anti-woke hysteria on the right, with many individuals assuming political motives and conspiracies as to why Ellie was smaller in the TV adaptation, why Abby was smaller in the TV adaptation, why the homophobic guy has more scenes that make him more sympathetic, and why Dena said she was not gay in the previous episode. There was a small controversy with people asserting that HBO was bending the knee to the anti-woke culture war and changing the very things that the anti-woke hysteric people were using as their flags for their movement. The size and imposing physical stature of Abby, the appearance of Ellie, Dena, and that homophobic guy not having those sympathetic scenes in the game. However, I tried to be a voice of reason in the previous review that not everything is always motivated by politics. Ellie, Abby, they look the way they do in the TV show because those are the people who they casted, who they auditioned and felt were best for the role. The physical appearance is not always going to trump the acting ability and chemistry that the actors have together. And it is the duty of the filmmakers, I believe, to pick the person who's best for the role and not the person who arbitrarily happens to look most like the character, but their acting ability or their chemistry with other actors isn't there. I'm glad they got a high caliber actress like Bella Ramsey to play as Ellie. This episode, I think, hopefully calms some of that culture war on the left, that knee-jerk reaction to assert political motives behind the changes that they have made for the television show. The TV show is not ashamed of the fact that Ellie is gay. It's not ashamed of the fact that Dena is bisexual. The things that were changed make narrative sense, and they work simply within the episode and the way that the show is being constructed and reorganized compared to the game. So that was the last thing I want to talk about. I'm very, very excited for episode 5. When Severance season 2 ended, I still had Yellow Jackets to watch. Then Yellow Jackets ended. And then The Last of Us Part 2 started. So back to back to back, I've been watching shows that I very much like. I'm hoping that something will be there for me when The Last of Us Season 2 ends, but we're here where we are right now, and I'm going to keep enjoying this show as it releases every week. I hope to be able to review every episode for you guys. Not review, but discuss. I like to make it clear that these are not reviews, they're just discussions. I don't like reviewing things and ranking them out of 10. But if I had to give a statement on it, I'd say The Last of Us Season 2 is a strong, strong recommend from me. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think about episode 4 of The Last of Us Season 2, especially if you are a non-gamer. I want to hear a non-gamer's opinion, especially on the pacing and everything. I'm sorry if you're a non-gamer watching this till the end. You just got spoiled on so much, and you'll continue to get spoiled in these reviews, but I know there are people who don't really care about spoilers. So if you are a TV-only person, tell me what you thought about this episode and about the previous 3 episodes. Video game players as well, if you've actually played the game, hit me up in the comments section and tell me what you think as well. Thank you guys for watching.